Thank you, Dr. Fatima, for such a good presentation about Shalamar online learning environment, uh, Maya. Now I would invite Professor Rikhan Han to uh, have a brief commentary about these talks and his expert opinion about these research works. I would also
Um,
like to have Professor Mahmoud Ayaz, Professor Farooq Afzal, and Professor Asghar Naki, and Professor Khwaja Azim, and Professor Kazmi Saab to be part of the panel discussion and unmute your mics so that you can be part of this whole thing. I would also like to ask the presenters to be part of the discussion as well.
uh, Thank you, Dr. Wasim. I'm grateful that you invited me to this very interesting session. And, perhaps I joined when Dr. Jahangir started presenting. I missed the part of Dr. Zaitoon. So I'll be commenting on Dr. Jahangir's and Fatma Zahra's presentation. I would like to say that I was very impressed by the way they have developed very interesting instruments and following a very meticulous and a rigorous process of developing these questionnaires. Regarding Dr. Jahangir's talk, a brief summary would be that he has informed us that mini steam lacks certain credibility in terms of the construct, and so another tool, which is Sorim, was developed. I do have certain questions which obviously I'll pose once I'm done with the brief summary. So Sorim is the I would say the new kid on the block. If you would like to measure the educational room environment as per the student's perspective. Then, based on a similar pattern, Dr. Fatima Zahra, she also shared with us the Shalimar instrument, which measures the online learning environment measure, which obviously is a need of the time, is because we're all going through that phase, and we moved out of the brick and mortar, and now majority of the learning is done through online learning, and this is obviously a very helpful tool which would help many institutions to evaluate their online learning systems. So these were technically the I would say the good points about these two talks. uh, I would like to ask you, should I pose my questions now, or how would you like this discussion to be unraveled or
I think
initiated?
Dr. Jahangir is available with us, so you can pose your questions to Dr. Jahangir at the moment.
Okay, so Dr. Jahangir, well done. I can see that probably this instrument was developed under the supervision of Dr. Talat, and he has very nicely used all his knowledge, which is gained in Masters in Health Professional Education. But I have a few questions from you. Uh, you did not mention, number one, anything about response process validity of the new instrument, which is SOREEM. And let me give you a brief account what is response process validity. When we say response process validity, it means that the respondents, the intended respondents, which are the students, how would they take your instrument or the questionnaire? Which means that would they also be on the same wavelength while reading those questions, or their understanding would be different from it? That is one question. And the second question from you is that you said that you did an exploratory factor analysis on mini steam. So I would like to ask you that on what basis you did an exploratory factor analysis on already established themes, where, in my opinion, it should have been a confirmatory factor analysis. So I know I would be interested in knowing the answer to these two questions.
It might be a little difficult for Jahangir to answer this question, so I would like to rescue him. First of all, let me answer the first question, the second question. Uh,
Okay.
Actually, when most of the times when we run the confirmatory factor analysis, we have to run exploratory factor analysis. There is a debate about it. Some of the experts think that the exploratory factor analysis should not be run when you are running confirmatory factor analysis. But the person who is currently working, who is the pioneer of the confirmatory factor analysis, he says that there is no harm in doing exploratory factor analysis when we are doing confirmatory factor analysis. Second, coming to the question number one, the expert validation had both expert panels. They included the experts who had experience in surgery, in medical education, and the students as well. So we covered that response thing in that part of the expert validity. So we tried to manage some of the things, but you are the expert. You can enlighten us about it.
Yeah, I mean, let's start first with the response process validity. I mean, you see, once you are done with the expert validation and the content validity index, which means you've established that all the contents of your questionnaire are according to the content which you would like to ask the students regarding the questionnaire, then you go for the meaning of the questions. I mean, because at times the questions which you develop, their English or their construct may not be the same for the students as well. So that is a necessary step. That's a quality step. I mean, if you miss that, I mean, this is fine, but still, you may not be sure that if you are posing a question, what was in your mind or in the experts, is that being perceived as a student at the similar wavelength or not? That's one thing. Regarding the confirmatory factor analysis and exploratory factor analysis, the the punchline is that, you see, if you are developing a new tool or instrument and you have a set of questions, like maybe 40 questions, and you don't know that what sub themes or constructs would they fall in, then you do a exploratory factor analysis or a principal component analysis. Based on that, your factor loadings will appear, telling you that these certain questions, they fall under one category better than the other one. So you put those questions which have a similar factor loadings or the varimax rotation, and then you give that group of questions a certain name or a theme. Whereas in confirmatory factor analysis, if a questionnaire has already been developed and it has got constructs or the themes or whatever you call them, but you now want to confirm that these themes under which you have placed these questions, are they actually under these themes or not? So then you do a confirmatory factor analysis. So that is the punchline of what I mean to say. So in your case, preferably speaking, for mini steam, you should have done a confirmatory factor analysis. For SOREAM, you could have done, depending upon if you were using a pre-designed items, you could, or themes, you could have done confirmatory, otherwise an exploratory. So I think that explains the basic ideology behind factor analysis.
Thank you for this detailed feedback, Professor Rehan. I would request the other panel members to have their opinion about these instruments which have been developed at Shalamar Hospital. Kazmi sir,
Yes, sir.
are you with us, sir?
Yes, I'm here.
Would you like to contribute to this discussion, sir?
I think it's quite advanced for me, and I never realized that things are so advanced in Pakistan now. I've
Online learning is creating magics.
and and credit goes to you and Khwaja and the team for all this. Although I'm taking part in it when you send the research to me, but obviously, yeah, obviously, yes, things are really very good.
Let me bring in Professor Mahmood Ayaz into this discussion now.
Um, Talat, I just wanted to know that how large should be the set of variables to run an external factor analysis? You know, to run this kind of an exploratory factor analysis. I don't think that the subset of the variables which you determined in that study was large enough to, you know, run an exploratory factor analysis.
So there were around 550 participants in the particular study. So we have a huge base to validate our findings. 560
Okay, I
respondents.
missed that part. I think I missed that part. I thought that the subset was a smaller one, but I think that if it is 550, it's quite all right.
560 participants. Would you like to add
So the
any
boys are
comment?
all very well, actually.
Would you like to expand on this discussion, sir?
I would like to add one thing. It was a very interesting question with Professor Mahmood. I asked, he asked. So the principle here is that the participants for any questionnaire, if you would like to validate that questionnaire, the minimum number required is 10 participants per question. That is a minimum number if you would like to do a exploratory factor analysis or a confirmatory factor analysis. So if Dr. Talat had, say, for example, 50 questions, so he needed at least 500 participants. That is the minimum number. And if he would like to have an ideal number, the number goes up to 20, which means that he would require at least 1,000 participants. So I think probably Dr. Talat fulfilled the minimum criteria to establish the construct validity.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for answering this question. We are short in time. I would like to invite Professor Hamad Naim Rana now. He will be taking on the next portion of this session. Professor Hamad Naim Rana, can you hear us, sir? Hamad Sahib? Yes.